Warning! Graphic pest control video ahead. Do not watch if you might be offended. If, however, you really like watching pest control videos, then hello again and welcome to the Squirrel Hunter channel. Please continue and watch us as we control pest populations with silenced air rifles here in the UK. If you have any questions, can you please check the description below first to see if it's already been answered and for some useful links. Thank you. Because I got asked a lot about what I did to modify my NS50, I made this video. It's not intended as a step-by-step guide, and you will need some skills and tools should you wish to try it for yourself. So please bear in mind I'm no expert and this is a work in progress. Now watch on.
We often get asked what we use for night vision shooting, and the mainstay of our night vision shooting is the NS50 from Night Sight. These are quite old units, the camera's not brilliant, but they do work quite well. So let's have a look just inside here what I actually use when I go out. There it is in all its glory. This isn't exactly the standard unit you get. I've taken a few items out for different size scopes. I'll just keep the ones I use. Right in the middle, that's the IR unit. The IR comes out of there. There's a control knob, sets the power, and you view the image on that screen. This is the camera. It's a standard camera unit from the NS50. Goes on the gun that way up. There's the camera, looks down the scope, and it puts the picture onto this screen. You look into it there, and you can see what the scope is seeing. This is the adapter. Goes on the camera one end, and over the scope the other. Got sorted cables. And that incidentally is the hole where the clip goes on that holds it to the gun. Sits on the scope and attaches to that bit there. Then it comes to the power source. Got several of these lithium polymer batteries. Bought off eBay. I've no idea what the numbers were. They're much better than the unit's original battery, which is huge. It's the lead acid one. These are quite good batteries, to be honest. Two of these each. See the light comes on. There's a button there. And you see it's almost all the way charged. So I've used that one a little bit. See what this one's got in it. And that one's completely charged. Very useful. I do like these batteries. They last for quite a few hours. In fact 4 or 5 in some cases. Very good indeed. Then we've got the collection of other things. Rubber bands. Absolute must for me. There's a scope clamp. Clamping on IR torch. Here we have the control unit for the recorder. I'll show you that on the gun in a bit. An assortment of batteries. These big ones for the Cree torches we use. Different ones for head torches and other batteries. And all pretty much rechargeable. All power cables there. Here is the mini DVR from RF Concepts. And yet again, more spare batteries for that. Never knowingly underpowered. And that's pretty much it. I'll just have to mount it on the gun now to show you what it looks like.
There it is in standard format on my BSA R10. I just haven't mounted the DVR and the control box for it in a normal position.
Here's the camera unit, standard one off the NS50. What you do is you put your thumb in there and twist that camera lens around till it focuses on your crosshair. And ideally you have a parallaxing scope, you can focus the scope to the target then. You've got power connection in, you've got connection to the IR unit, and you've also got the output for a mini DVR recorder. He says that he throws it over the table. If you ever wonder what was inside these things, I've taken the screws out, stick a screwdriver down them holes, and the back comes apart like this. Just one-handed while I'm filming for you. And there we are. A little printed circuit board with the connections on there. That comes apart quite easily. That's the board camera. And we pretty much can replace that with a more powerful and better unit. I will be showing you in future videos just how to do it. All I'll need to do is replace this back with something else. I'll be cutting some holes in there to put in some new connections to the new board, and I'll be turning this board upside down, so instead of being like that on the gun, it'll be like that. We're taking 2 screws out the front of here. This wiggles out. Take the screws out of that and turn it 180 degrees. Then the camera will be upside down, so when you put it on the right way up, the body will be that way up. I'll show you that later on. And here we have the upgraded NS50 unit. Goes on the gun that way. Connections on the top there. And the only thing I've done that's actually damaged this is cut 3 holes there. Everything else could go back as it was, and you would never know the difference. It's quite a useful modification. I'll take you through what I did. Not for the faint-hearted. You'll need some technical skills, and there is always a possibility you could ruin just about everything you've got. So don't do it unless you're confident or you don't care like me.
Firstly, I'd like to thank all the lads on the NV forums on Facebook who offered advice and guidance. Too many to name, but you know who you are. Once you have a new camera board, first thing you must do is take those screws out of there to remove the housing for the lens. This then exposes that little bit of red glass, which is the IR cut filter, which blocks out IR light. The way to remove it is put a hot soldering iron on it till it melts the glue. You should be able to prise it off, and then clean the camera sensor with some sort of solvent and lint-free cloth. That lets more IR light into the camera board.
Right then, first up, this cheap and cheerful little electrical testing device. For the purposes of this, I'll just set it for continuity. When you touch these ends together, a painfully weak little beep you hear should tell me if I have connection between 2 points, and that's what I used to sort out the connections. This is the board camera unit I took out the NS50. You can see I've already removed the IR filter off of it. With an early mod I did, let in more IR light. This is a printed circuit board they've used to mount the connections on. Power cable there, 2.1 times 5.5. That's a 3.5mm 4-pole jack. That's a 2.5mm 3-pole jack, if I remember rightly. I might have that wrong though. But I've taken that clean out of the camera and put it to one side, so I can fit it back if I want to. Not a problem in the world. There's other connections, but we're only really interested in these. In fact, we're only really interested in those 3 wires. I'll have to look up what this one was again, I can't remember, but it's not needed. Not in my build anyway. With the camera I bought, 30mm board camera, 800 TVL FEO. Not sure which model, or whether I should have got the right one, but that's the one I got, for good or bad. Now, this is the cable that comes with it. You can use this button to navigate an on-screen display. I didn't want to get rid of this cable. Only really interested in that part. I could have cut that off and used that. I didn't want to destroy the cable with all the other bits and pieces. So I ended up buying some more of these. And I'll put the name of these up in a minute. Let you know what they are and what to search them out for. I will add, I got some from China and they came. When you compare these to the one I bought, you'll see that the red and the yellow are actually back to front on the one I bought. Caused me no end of fun until I sussed it out. The black is in the right position. This is how they come standard. The one I bought was wrong. It was that way round. So I ended up having to wire that as a yellow and that as a red. Took a bit of fiddling. Didn't matter what the colour of the wires were, as long as electricity goes to the right place. In fact, here you can see the 2 together. That's the one off the camera I bought, and that's the one I bought in to put in place of it. And quite clearly see the reds and the yellows are back to front. I got the wire I needed off an electrician friend, it's quite small gauge, but I have cut this stuff, varying colours of old electronics, no longer needed, going to the scrap bins. Doesn't matter what the colour is. My master plan was to work out what the positive, what the video was, what the ground was. And once I worked them out, I soldered this wire onto it, then mark it with some coloured sleeving, red for positive, blue for ground, and yellow for video, trying to keep the same conventions as the other wiring. And once I've sussed each one out and marked it up, when I come to connect them together at the end, drawing all the reds together, all the blues and all the yellows, and that should work, right? As long as I don't have a problem mixing up the reds and the yellows on those Chinese cables I bought. But that was the plan anyway. Here's one of my earlier attempts with a 4-pole 3.5mm panel mounted socket. Just connected a load of cables to the end of it. And what I did to work out what the outputs were, so I got my cable, see the 4 poles, and count them there. 4 bits of metal separated by insulators. That goes in there. I reasoned that each one of those, I should be able to connect it through using my tester, touching on each pole and working out which wire was connected to each pole. So that's how I went about that. I pretty much did that on every single connector I had to work out which bit was connected to which other bit, if that makes any sense. You touch it on the pole, touch on each wire in turn until you get the little buzzing sound. You know that that particular one is connected to which one. Some hastily added labels. It was much about getting my own head round it as anything else. I'm not an electrician, but I had to try and work through things methodically. Here's my tester. Hear the beep. I know I've got continuity. If I put it on the pole nearest to there, you can see I only get connection when I touch the same one on that side. Now I've plugged it in, if I pick a pole, that's got connection, and none of those do. So I now know that pole is connected to that wire. I can label it as appropriate, so I know which one's which when I come to connect them.
I pretty much used this method to suss out all the connections on all my points. On the power cable I needed the pos and the ground, and the others I needed the video and the ground. That's pretty much it. That little screen you saw in the background, you can see it there next to the battery. It's of a car reversing kit. You can get them off eBay. Just a little screen, quite cheap. I had to wire it up through connector blocks just to prove to myself that I had the right wires. I've included these pictures, these bits of paper. These are the doodles I made at the time. This was the NS50's actual wiring. I'm no expert, and this should show you that I am no expert, but it's what I went through to get my head round how I was going to do it, what connected to what, etc, etc, till eventually I came up with my eureka moment. I did actually write that at the time. It did surprise me. I just included them as a point of interest, really. When I connected them up in the camera, it would all work as I expected it to. As you can tell, I had quite a bit of a voyage of discovery. I needed to get my head round it. I also bought these camera lenses to try out. I did settle on 16mm in order to give the biggest picture possible. The 800 TVL camera was hopefully going to provide a better quality video picture for you all to see. The only flying note now was the new board is a lot bigger than the original camera board, and those little legs, they fit on the corners and they put pressure on the board holding it in situation to make sure it doesn't move about. I need to replicate that somehow on my new board, so I removed the back so as not to damage it, replaced it with a piece of clear machine guarded. Because it's clear, I could see exactly where I needed to drill a hole and put a bolt in. I used nuts to get the exact distance to push on the back of the board. Then to hold it on, I used some bit bigger self-tappers than the original screws. Going in the opposite way, they screwed into the clearance holes that cleared the original bolts, if that makes sense. And that was pretty much that. I just connected all the reds together, all the yellows and all the blues. Or one of them was the black actually off the board. But you know what I mean. That's what it looks like now. Up the other way. All the sockets facing forward so the cables go the right direction. Bit of a bugbear with my original design. And just a bit of a word about these 4-pole connectors. For the mini DVR, you only actually need those 2 connectors, believe it or not. Not all of them work. Interesting point I found out whilst I was testing. If you plug that into a 3-pole panel mounted socket, those 2 connections physically make contact with the outputs of it. So I've actually got a 3-pole connector on my camera, and I record quite successfully with it, believe it or not, because I only need the 2 poles. And there we have a shot of it. Just 2 connections on the output that goes to the mini DVR. There was the 3rd connection, which is just about there. That's physically there. And there's a hole with no connector in. I can only guess that these are generic bases they use for 3 and 4-pole connectors. That's my stab in the dark at that one.
Right then, just to prove a point, this is the 3-pole connector, panel connector. Drill a hole, push it through, screw the nut on, hold it in situ, attach wires to these if you want them all. We only want 2 of those. What I found, see my 4-pole connector, 4 poles there, into the 3-pole socket. I get my tester, hear it buzz away. If I put it on the 2 middle ones, a connection with that, and the other one in the middle, I get connection with that. So I don't actually need a 4-pole socket, I can get away with the 3-pole one. Quite a fortune to find that, and everything I've recorded on it since has been done that way. Now you can see it mounted on the back of the scope in all its glory, because I put the camera board in upside down. It means the body can be turned up the other way, gives you much more clearance between the stock and the body of the camera. It also gives you a place to put the plugs into. The top one's going to the mini DVR, the plug with a 90-degree bend on it is going to the actual IR unit and the screen, and the one at the bottom is the power, and that one's going to get a 90-degree put into it. In fact, I've got another cable that came with the original light sight which I will shorten, make a better looking cable for it. Cables are still a bit untidy for my liking, wrapped round there, interferes with the zoom a bit. I'll have to sort that out somehow or other. See, the rest of it looks pretty standard, except the picture quality is much better, as you'll soon see.
I couldn't wait to get out in the garden and have a quick test. I was quite pleased with the image quality. Some issues there with focus and distance, always a pain. And as always, the IR light needs turning up and down to get the best picture quality possible. I was quite pleased with my initial findings. I will continue to mess with this unit. This is my test bed from now on. Hopefully you'll get to see the benefit of it in our future videos. Since this test and a few vids I've made, the unit has started playing up a bit. So now I have a 700 TVL Sony CCD FEOE on-screen display camera board on order. I will be trying that. Thank you, Wayne, for the tip. So hopefully this has shed a little light on what I use and what I did to my NS50. Like I said, it's a work in progress and it amuses me to tinker.
Just included this as a bit of a demonstration of what I did. Got these ends.
Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please like, subscribe and share. Thank you.